Hello from London in the UK. In this video, I'm going to be showing you everything that you can do for free here in one of the world's best cities. Now, London has a reputation for being expensive, but there are so many things that you can see and do here for absolutely nothing. And I think it might be the best in the world for that. Let me know your thoughts as I go along in this video. I am currently outside of St Pancras station, which is my favorite building. I've just arrived here from Cambridgeshire. So immediately coming out of St Pancras station, we're taking a right to go straight to the British Library, which is just next door. And not many people take the time to come here because the things that you can see are kind of a little bit less known compared to some of the other major attractions. Okay, so I'm now here inside the British Library, and you may be thinking, well, it's just a library, why would you come in here? But along with having more than 400 miles of bookshelves, the library has many exhibitions, some permanent and some temporary, with a lot of incredible documents from British history. As you wander around, you'll see a lot of people studying. So this section contains treasures of the British Library, which is old historical documents, Beatles lyrics, Shakespeare's first folio, and many other things. Jane Austen, George Eliot, Oscar Wilde, their original notes and drafts. And here, the Magna Carta from 1215, one of the most historical political documents, which was the beginning of taking powers away from the king and a step towards parliament and democracy. So having left the British Library, I am now walking to the next place, which is the British Museum. And I know it gets a lot of flack because of the way many of the items were acquired, but nevertheless, it is still worth a look in. It has some incredible stuff in there. It's enormous, and you can spend days just exploring the British Museum alone. So it's best to just go there for a few hours, target a few things that you want to see, a few sections, and then leave. I'm going to head in now and show you a little bit. But as I'm walking, I wanted to say that it's quite nice to go around London on your own 2 feet. You don't always have to take the tube. If you check how far the distance is, maybe it's just 20 minutes walk or 25 minutes walk, it can be worth doing it, as opposed to going underground or having to change some different lines. So I'm now outside the museum, and one thing you need to know, even though it's free, is that you do need to book a time on the website to enter, and that can be 5 or 10 minutes from when you're outside the entrance for security. So it's not too difficult to just quickly go online, put in a few details on the website and get the QR code sent to you, and then you can go straight in. It's a tiny bit of work, but it's really not too much effort, and you can do it in advance before you arrive if you know the exact time you're going to be here too. Here we are inside the world's oldest national public museum. It's even older than the USA. There are constantly changing exhibitions. You can see up here, explore the Islamic world, and Japan. There are also fixed ones, famous items like the Rosetta Stone and the Sutton Hoo burials. Just to give you an idea of the museum's diversity, you've got Africa, Americas, ancient Egypt, Roman Greece, the Middle East, Asia. Shortly after, I was stopped for filming with my gimbal inside the museum, which I half expected to happen. So here's some shots that I took while walking around with my camera, including the Rosetta Stone, which is arguably the most famous item in the museum, with its 3 languages being the key to deciphering and understanding ancient hieroglyphics. Many of the Egyptian items are very impressive. Don't miss going upstairs so you can see the tombs. There's also winged beasts from Assyria. You'll find the Parthenon sculptures, which are spectacular. Ancient Greece as well as Rome. One of my favourite sections in the museum is Africa downstairs. In there you'll find the Benin bronzes, which in particular catch the eye, a group of brass sculptures which, more controversially than other items in the museum, were looted as official British spoils of war. There are, of course, many more items in the museum worth seeing, and you will almost certainly not be able to cover everything. The British Museum has its critics, and perhaps understandably so, but having said that, it's still a highly unique place. Almost no museum collection in the world can match its variety. You have the opportunity to sample and taste many different cultures and eras of history under just one roof, and it's all completely free. London has many more world-class free museums. I'll start with the 3 famous ones, which are all grouped together in South Kensington. The first, and one of my favourites, being the Victoria and Albert Museum. It's the world's largest museum of decorative arts and design, housing a permanent collection of more than 2.8 million objects. Don't miss the elaborate 19th century refreshment rooms when you stop for a coffee break. Then nearby we have 2 museums that are more popular with children but still never fail to get old for visiting adults. The first being the Natural History Museum, which, like the Victoria and Albert Museum, is housed in a beautiful building. In here you'll find everything associated with the natural world: dinosaur skeletons, fossils, skeletons of extinct animals from the Ice Age. Rubbing shoulders with the Natural History Museum is the Science Museum, which is quite an interactive one. It does a great job of bringing the science alive. It's immersive, it's also large and can take plenty of time to explore. These are the museums I popped into while filming in London, and it's useful that these 3 in particular are grouped together. Of course, London has many more great free museums, and I won't be able to list them all, so I'll just start with the main ones to give you more of an idea. There's the Imperial War Museum, Sir John Soane's Museum, the Bank of England Museum, the Museum of London Docklands, and the National Maritime Museum, amongst many others. Along with the museums, I want to recommend 2 art galleries in particular, both of which, of course, are free. They're sitting next to each other in front of Trafalgar Square. And the first one, and the most well-known, is the National Gallery. In there you'll find works by renowned artists like Raphael, Da Vinci, Monet, Van Gogh, and so on. The paintings span from medieval times up to 1900. There's a huge variety of art. And again, it's somewhere you can dedicate an entire morning or afternoon to seeing alone. The other is the National Portrait Gallery next door, which houses portraits of historically important and famous British people. You can see portraits of Tudor kings or queens, past famous figures in British history, running all the way up to the best portraits of 2024. That evening I had dinner at the UK's oldest Punjabi restaurant, which was a great experience. The food was amazing, and then after that I made my way east on the Docklands Light Railway towards my hotel. At the end of day 1, I've arrived here at the Good Hotel. Thank you to them for hosting me in London, sitting on the water of the Royal Docks. It's quite a picturesque and quiet spot. And the amazing thing about this hotel is that 100% of their profits go towards the education of children who are in poverty in Guatemala. And so by staying here, you'll be directly supporting them. And this room is called the best room with water view. And this is the ensuite here. So you can check them out. The link will be in the video description. Good morning and welcome back to London. I've just checked out of the good hotel there, which provided me with a full English and some nice views in the morning over the water of the Royal Docks. So I thought I would start this morning by taking a trip here to Hyde Park, which is probably London's most famous park. It is enormous, and London is an incredible place for free public parks. There are many. People often think that Hyde Park is the largest. It's not. There's another one called Richmond Park, which is worth visiting. It's more than 2,500 hectares. And it has about 350 roaming deer. That one is also worth visiting. Along with these two, you have Greenwich Park, St James's Park, where you can see the outside of Buckingham Palace. Just on the other side here, you've got Kensington Gardens, where you can see Kensington Palace from the outside. The park list goes on and on. There are many. Take your pick and enjoy whatever season it is. We are at the beginning of autumn and some of the trees are starting to turn yellow. Many events take place here throughout the year, most notably Winter Wonderland during the Christmas period. So as I walk through Hyde Park here, I'm going to tell you about the sponsor of today's video. They are called Sim Local and they offer an eSIM, which means that you can buy a SIM card before you travel, and then when you arrive, all you have to do is take your phone off airplane mode and you'll be able to connect straight away. It's really helpful sometimes when you're in a rush. If you're arriving very late, then you can have it all organized for you. It saves the time and hassle of having to buy a SIM card and also getting ripped off at the airport, which sometimes don't end up working or have dodgy connection. If you want to avoid steep roaming fees or unreliable connectivity, then you can take advantage using my discount code Jason Billum in all caps. You'll get 10% off, and I'll leave the link in the video description. Leaving Hyde Park and within walking distance is London's most famous department store and somewhere that you should not miss on a trip here. It is historic. I'm sure you can guess what it is, those who know London very well. Just like the British Museum, when entering Harrods, I was told I couldn't go around vlogging with my gimbal, so I just took off the camera and filmed a few shots as I made my way. Every time I visit Harrods, it always amazes me. It has the best quality of every product you can imagine. There's an entire hall dedicated to chocolate, for example. The food areas are my favorite parts. The cheeses, the sandwiches, cakes. There's an incredible dining hall as well, full of live food stations. I love the ceiling of that room too. As one of the best and most historic department stores in the world, it's completely free to wander, and so it cannot be ignored for this list. I've hopped on the tube and made my way over to Westminster. Behind me is Big Ben on Elizabeth Tower, the Houses of Parliament, and on the other side of the Thames in the background there is the London Eye, and although we are just outside, we're not going in anywhere, this has to be included. It's the most famous site in London, and so I'm going to walk on a little bit from here, past some other famous sites. I don't usually walk down here, there's a lot of tourists, so if you can come on a weekday, it's a little bit less crowded. As I mentioned earlier, there are just too many places to cover in this video, and so one I will not have the time to visit, which has recently opened a year or two ago, is Battersea Power Station, just a little bit further down the Thames there on the South Bank. It's been turned into a shopping centre. It has cinemas, it has bars and gyms. There's a place you can take an elevator up one of the chimneys where you can get views of London. There's tons of new things there and lots of nice restaurants and cafes around it. The whole area has been given a facelift, so that is also somewhere that you can take a look at too. It does a great job of showing London's ability to take the old and turn it into something modern without losing the history and demolishing buildings that were once thought of as being ugly. Having walked across Westminster Bridge, we're now on the south bank of the Thames. That is the London Eye. High up there you can go up and get views of London. Of course it's not for free. What is free is walking along the south bank in particular. But walking along the Thames on the north bank too is also quite nice. Places to sip cocktails by the Thames when it's happy hour. Various stalls of things, frozen yogurt and hot dogs during Christmas. This area is full of various stalls selling Christmas related food. It's quite buzzing. Having walked on a bit further east along the south bank, we are in front of Tate Modern. That is the Millennium Bridge there with St Paul's on the north end of the Thames. Tate Modern, it's free to enter, although I'm not a massive fan of the art in there. I would recommend you visit Tate Britain instead, which is also free to enter. I think the art in there is better. So here we have Shakespeare's Globe, where you can watch a performance in the original Elizabethan style theatre. It's only £5 if you want a standing ticket. That is almost free, so I thought it would be worth mentioning here. But if you want a seat, tickets can go up to I think around £75 depending on the category. London is a constant mix of old and new. Shakespeare's Globe behind there, and old pubs, old bridges, and then on the other side of the Thames, the City of London there, the modern skyscrapers are bank buildings mostly, and offices, the finance hub. Many pubs always in London. The building poking up the top there, many of you probably know, is the Shard, the tallest building in the UK. So for the majority of this walk you need to stay by the Thames, continue east, but along the way, one little detour you should do, just turn right when you get to Sir Francis Drake's Hind, a replica of his ship. There's Borough Market. It's a place you can't miss walking around while heading across this way. It's London's most famous fresh food market. Located under the railway lines, this market has a lot of character. It dates back to around 1756. I'm a little bit late in the day here, so it's not as active as it is in the morning, lunchtime and afternoon hours. Making our way past London Bridge, things open up back at the Thames here by Tower Bridge, which I think is my favourite bridge in London. On the other side, of course, is the Tower of London. You have to pay to go in, but it is worth it for the history of all the stories and to see the crown jewels. The City of London over there, a bit further west. I'll give you a quick reminder. The link for Sim Local is also in the video description if you want to take advantage of the 10% discount and have a sim ready to go for when you travel. And finally, the link for the Good Hotel, where I stayed last night, is also in the video description. I hope you enjoyed this video of London and it gave you some ideas for things that you can do for no cost at all while you're here in the UK's largest city. And I'll see you on the next video. Peace.